Hello. Get the attention back on me. What up, podcast peeps? How you doing? Glad you're back. I gotta admit, this week, folks, I'm just overwhelmed. Too much going on. You got March Madness, trying to analyze 68 teams in the tournament. Dan's doing a great job of helping me out there. We've got NFL news breaking just left and right as we speak. You got the MLB preseason getting underway with grapefruit and cactus leagues, which I never miss. I'll tell you that much. So a whole lot to cover on today's episode of My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. Glad you're back for another one. Glad for all you guys that submitted questions to us and following the site all week. In case you didn't know, we got every single matchup of the first round broken down for you on myfantasysportstalk.com. Thanks to my co-host, I am Brandon Reed, and he is Dan Shaw. Great work this week, Dan. You actually had to put your draft profiles on hold for a minute to get all these, 34 first-round basketball previews out?
Yeah, man, there's nothing like tournament time. So NFL film watching will have to wait a week or so, but I love this time. I call Selection Sunday Christmas Eve and Thursday, which probably by the time this podcast comes out, it will be Christmas Day. So this is my time. I don't know if I've told you this, Brandon, but every March Madness, the Thursday, Friday, those first round games, I have taken off of either work or school since the first grade.
Since the first grade.
Since the first grade, I have faked sick. And I actually told my mother this last year, and it sent her for a whirlwind when she found out that I was sick the same Thursday and Friday in March. And she had no idea for a good 12, 13 years. So it's worked out well for me, and this is my favorite time of year. I love the Thursday, Friday of March Madness. I will take over any sporting event, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, any of them. This is my time.
I agree, and that's why NCAA basketball has done it. They've hit a home run, and I think football could learn so much from the way basketball does it. Not as a grand a scale, of course, not 68 teams, but it's the excitement of a tournament, right, Dan? It's just a random matchup, and you win or go home. It's the thing of battling it out and finding out who is champion, because as we've seen in basketball, you really don't know. You have favorites, but look at your Butlers of the past, your VCUs, your George Washingtons, teams like that. You never know. Florida Gulf Coast, you never can know, or you never know. And that just doesn't happen in football. It's not possible to happen in college football. And I think that takes some of the excitement up. For me personally, it's a huge part of it. That's why I don't follow college football like I do college basketball or really NFL or any other sport, just because of the excitement of that. But I can't believe your mom didn't catch on to that second grade, third grade, fourth grade. I mean, she never caught on to that. Hey, he's always. Did you fake springtime allergies or what?
I don't. It was different each year. I like to play it up a little bit, but
I don't end up in the doctor's office with something serious.
Right. I might have been sick actually once or twice through that time, but my mother was so hard working and being such a good mom that she didn't keep track every March. Oh, this kid's gonna get sick again. So I did well to play it off. Thermometer on the light bulb. That worked well for me growing up. But yeah, it's just the time. It's just the time of year. The upsets. That's something I love. And just your bracket, and me doing these games, predicting every game this year. I'm putting a little bit of my reputation on the line. Obviously, I don't think I'm going to get everyone right. But I don't know if you saw today one of the upsets that I picked: Montana over Michigan. Did you see that?
Yeah. What about it?
Did you like that? I was just asking.
It's a possibility. It's that 14-3, they're out there. So what I did is I broke down what happened last year, the seedings that actually made it to the Sweet 16. There was 2 7s. There was an 11. You never really know. It's that I think 5-12 is pretty prominent. 6-11 is always a possibility. But you got to watch those 5-12s. And the first time I filled out my bracket, and, disclaimer here, we're going to go through this and walk through this and give our predictions, but I have until Thursday. We're recording the podcast on Tuesday to get it out to you by Thursday morning. So we look like geniuses with some of these picks. So you listen to the podcast and you see it on TV happening. You're like, those guys really know what they're doing. But full disclaimer here, I have the right to change my mind in May before Thursday morning. But first glance, I don't remember if it's the 6-11. Let me take a look here real quick. I'll be able to tell you. But I had the higher seed in every single bracket. Yeah, it was 11. I had the 11 seed winning in every single region. So I had to back up off that, and think about that twice. So I did, and I will, and I'll continue to. But it's a great time of year. Can't wait for these matchups to get going. I may have to negotiate a little bit of time off myself and see what happens. I'll be honest, though, Dan. This is probably, I'm trending backwards here. I'm trending backwards because this is the first year that I can ever remember that I did not watch the selection show live. Number one, I didn't have a chance. My team had no chance in it. So it takes away some of the enthusiasm in it when you know your team doesn't have a chance. There just wasn't much to be surprised about to me. You pretty much knew who was in the tournament. I didn't really care about the snubs, on that 11 line or some of the teams that got left out. I just didn't really care so much about that. It's just this was a type of year that just show me the end product, show me the bracket, and I'll get to work. But I guess it was a great year to actually be like that, Dan, because I heard they screwed the selection show all up. First of all, it went on CBS. So if you're looking for it on CBS, you were disappointed. It was on TBS. And then they just announced the teams alphabetically. What the hell is that?
Yeah, it was definitely a little weird. It took a lot of the suspense out of it. And then they didn't always mention which teams were being snubbed. So then you're trying to do alphabetical order kind of in your mind of the teams that are on the bubble. So for me, it was a little difficult. I could only imagine what not as serious college basketball fans, what they thought, and they probably had no idea what was going on. But yeah, it was definitely a little weird, and there was different hosts throughout the show. Greg Gumbel seemed pissed off that he wasn't the prominent guy. Ernie Johnson stole a lot of his thunder, and then out of nowhere Chuck came, and it was just odd, and it didn't have as much joy, I guess you would say. Watching it. I mean, I did like it because it is just a selection Sunday, and you see who makes the field. I never really have a team in it. Colorado usually doesn't make the tournament. And this year I was high on Canisius, but they lost in the first round of the MAC tournament. So I
Buffalo.
knew they had a chance. But yeah, well, I knew Buffalo was going to get in. I was pretty certain that St. Bonaventure was going to get in. That's a team I'm high on, and they were, in that last four. They have the play-in game tonight, so I'm looking forward to that after the show. But it was definitely weird. That's for sure.
Well, to me and again, my team wasn't in it, so it doesn't really matter. But to me, that kind of takes away of some of the enthusiasm and excitement, because when it's announced region by region, and if your team's on the bubble, that's huge because you get through 3 regions and you're like, oh Lord, please be in the Midwest, or whatever, So you're getting down to it, and that just they got to go backwards on that next year. They got to backtrack on that one and do it like it's always been done. I don't care if it's on TBS. But I'm kind of with you. I thought the mixture of when you add Greg Gumbel and Ernie Johnson, 2 hosts trying to compete, I heard it as it came on, but I was doing something else. So I right away thought of that dynamic as far as co-host there, and I thought that was a little weird. But yeah, don't do it like that. That takes away so much of just the excitement to me of unveiling region by region. 1 seed, who are they going to play in, alphabetical. What are we in 2nd grade here? Come on. That's a little silly. But anyway, yeah, I missed the selection show. It's like I said, just show me the final bracket and I'll take a look at it. But, there was a meeting on the University of Memphis campus today, Dan. Well, no, I think it got postponed. I don't even think it happened, but it was to discuss the future of Tubby Smith. I know you've been keeping up with this. I think it's a foregone conclusion that Tubby is out and Penny Hardaway will be the next coach of the University of Memphis because they got to sell some tickets and put some asses in that very expensive FedEx Forum. So that's the way it's going to go. So we may find out by tomorrow, I would think, Dan, that University of Memphis has a new coach.
You never even commented on the fake news I was dropping in our message boards the other day. I don't even know if you caught it. But when UConn fired Kevin Ollie, I said it's because they were targeting Penny. Did you buy into that at all?
Oh, no, I dismiss that. That's silly.
Okay.
That was complete poppycock, Dan. Yeah.
I was trying to get in your head, like, oh man, when are the Tigers going to let go of Tubby? And it was tough too, because if you watch that conference tournament, I mean, Memphis played their hearts out. You could definitely see it. I mean, that first half against Cincinnati, I was shocked. I couldn't believe what was going on. And it was guys that, I mean, I've watched some Memphis basketball this year. I bet on them a lot to lose, and didn't always work out in my favor. But I've learned a little bit of their roster, and some guys that I really haven't focused on a lot showed up in that game. I don't know if it was his last name was Jackson or something like that. He went off.
Jamal Jackson, Keenan Davenport.
Davenport, I've watched quite a bit. He's a solid player. He didn't have that good of a game against Cincinnati, but overall, I liked him. But you could tell. And you had alluded to it that, they were definitely playing for Tubby, and Tubby doesn't have an issue coaching in the game. That's not his problem. We've talked about it multiple times. It's bringing in skilled players that can actually compete at a high Division I level. So
it's just a lack of recruiting. I don't understand it. It's just a lack of, I don't know, what seems like effort on the recruiting trail. And he never really ingratiated himself to the community of Memphis either. He takes, heat for not targeting the kids in Memphis, a little bit harder. But and once he gets the kids, because he took, like I said, I'll keep harping back on this, 11 guys that never played D1 basketball before this year and turned them into a 21-win team. That's about as much as you can ask for, other than maybe one win over an elite like Wichita State or Cincinnati. But that's about all you can ask for. My dream scenario was to bring Penny in for a year or two as an assistant under Tubby. Let Penny try to bring in some of the Memphis recruits and let Tubby coach them. That's the way I feel most comfortable. Tubby needs some players, and then watch out. But for whatever reason, those two sides are not going to meet like that. It's not in the cards from what I can tell and what I've been told. So it looks like Penny's going to take over pretty soon. And we'll see if he can draw some of those Memphis guys in. But no, I saw that, and if it's Penny or bust, Dan. And honestly, I think there may be several other coaches out there that are better coaches, but they're not going to probably bring in the Memphis players like the community in the city wants. But you got Tom Crean out there. I think Tom Crean's a hell of a coach that should be right back in coaching. Andy Kennedy should be right back in coaching. He'll get another solid gig. And then Kevin Ollie, who has a national championship. I'd prefer Penny over Kevin Ollie, but I'm telling you, Tom Crean or Andy Kennedy, those are solid coaches. And, I love Penny, man. I hope for the best, but this better go right, because if it goes south, it could really set the program back quite a bit. And then what do you do to fire Penny Hardaway, your most famous alum of all time? So we'll just hope for the best. But there's your Memphis Tiger basketball talk. I know Nick Perkins was listening and keeping up on top of all this. But that's what I'm saying. So much going on, man. So much going on. Tournament time, non-tournament news here locally for me. NFL free agency. Titans are making moves. So this is what the show is going to look like today. We're going to go through the tournament. It's tournament time. We got those snubs, number one seeds, and surprises. Talk about that and see how we feel about that. See if everything fell into place like we thought it should. NFL moves, going to break down some of the more prominent NFL moves, which, man, it was busy today. It's been busy the last couple of days, but seems like just every 10 minutes now something is shaking loose. So we'll talk about that, the NFL moves. And we're going to go back into the NCAA tournament. We're going to rank the regions from toughest to easiest, I guess, and break down those regions, talk about the regions one by one before we give our Sweet 16 predictions and also the players to watch. We think in the tournament every year there's players that stick out. Every single year there's players that make a name for themselves in the NCAA tournament. So who are going to be some of those players this year? And, of course, we got mailbag questions, Dan. We didn't forget our peeps at home. We got mailbag questions to answer, a big variety, a lot of good NFL questions.
Foodie's back. Foodie question.
It is. It's a very good one. This is an all-day event, though. This isn't a dinner or a lunch. This is an all-day preparation.
He gave us a menu. Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, first of all, you got to have the day off to do what he's doing, talking about drinking some wine spritzers at 11 in the morning. But anyway, we'll get into that. So a whole lot to get into. Just me and Dan today. I don't know. Orlando might pop in. We'll see. I don't think he had a prior commitment, but heavy college basketball today in NFL news on My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. Again, thanks for joining us and listening and watching through all the avenues you do every single week. We appreciate it. So first of all, let's just jump right into that tournament, Dan. was their snub. Okay, so you've seen the kind of the backlash a little bit. Oklahoma getting in over Oklahoma State. I know you don't have a big problem with that one. And was it Arizona State over USC? Those are two of the more prominent ones I've heard. But just some of the other names when looking at the rankings, Notre Dame may have had an argument. Louisville, St. Mary's may have really had an argument, all coming out of a weak conference. But they had everything lined up there. Penn State, it was Penn State that beat Michigan 3 times?
I believe so, yeah.
3 times in one season. So they had a resume. Louisville, Middle Tennessee. So those are just some of the more prominent names that may have had a gripe for snubs. So did you see anything egregious this year with the snubs?
No, I think I saw something different just with the committee. In prior years, I felt like the committee looked higher on teams that were coming into the tournament hot instead of cold. So Arizona State, Oklahoma, they were coming in really cold. They lost, 10 out of 14, even more for Oklahoma, I think. But they were coming in losing, but it's such an impressive early season non-conference resume. I mean, some of the wins on both of those squads are, you look at those quality of wins and you're like, okay, they're tournament teams. I don't think the committee looked at much this year as hot teams coming into the tournament, because those teams are cold, but they have the talent and ability to beat those teams. So I wasn't too, freaked out that those two teams were in. I was a little bit more surprised with Syracuse than anything else. And Dylan Davis Torado, one of our writers, is from the Syracuse area. He's a Syracuse fan, and he was surprised they got in. He thought it was blasphemous that they did. So I was a little surprised by them. The team that I thought would have made it over all of them was USC. I mean, they had some quality wins, made it to the Pac-12 conference tournament championship, and lost in overtime to Arizona. So I was a little surprised with USC, but overall, I don't think this year was crazy as some prior years where I thought there were definite snubs.
Well, the one that I thought should have been a no-brainer is when Oklahoma State beat Oklahoma in the opening round of the Big 12 tournament. I mean, that is it. That is it. That's an elimination game right there.
Non-conference schedule. That's what I mean. The criteria changes here. They put it all into quadrants. Like you have a quadrant 1 win, quadrant 4 win, and Oklahoma had like 4 or 5 quadrant 1 wins. Where Oklahoma State, I don't believe, had 1. So I don't know. You could definitely say that head-to-head, Oklahoma State should get in. But if you're basing it off a quadrant system, and I think it's kind of an imperfect system anyways, you just have a bunch of ADs sitting in a room. So it's tough, but I don't think it's too egregious. You want the best players in there. I mean, Trae Young's better than Steph Curry, so you want him in the tournament.
Well, Oklahoma, according to KenPom, had the second toughest strength of schedule, so that has a little something to do with it. But as far as their overall ranking, they were not very far, according to KenPom, which is the main site that I use as opposed to your traditional RPI. But Oklahoma was ranked 47, and Oklahoma State was ranked 56 with the 21st toughest schedule. But still, to me, you're not talking about a very wide gap, though. You're still talking about one of the last couple of teams in. So I don't know. I always go back to who is playing hottest at the end of the season, because that's who I want to see in the tournament. And it doesn't always work out that way, because we argued this 2 years ago when that aforementioned Syracuse team did get in as a 10 seed and made it all the way to the Final Four. And we were like, no, they don't deserve in. But once they got in, they were going to make noise, and they could do it again this year. Not the most experienced or talented team that Bahami's ever had, but they play, the 2-3 zone. They always got a chance. But I would hate to have to explain myself from Oklahoma getting in over Oklahoma State when Oklahoma State just put Oklahoma out of the conference tournament. And I do weigh heavily. Me personally, I weigh heavily on what's going on towards the end of the season. And Oklahoma lost 11 of their last 15 games, and Trae Young was shooting like 30%. That's not a team that I care anything about seeing. But I'll tell you what, Dan, it was all because of star power. I guarantee you the committee looks at things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And they had that star, and his name is Trae Young. Regardless if it's shooting 30% or not, he led the nation in scoring and assists. So very impressive. But losing 11 in your last 15, that's not a tournament team to me. But star power.
I hear you. Trae Young, better than Steph Curry. I like it. That's all I got.
That's all you got. Yeah.
So for those listening, it's an ongoing thing with me and Brandon and our Trae Young love. So
I've given up. I mean, I thought I won this argument a month and a half ago.
Nope, still going on. You got to wait till Trae Young's in the NBA and then watch him take off. He's got good ankles.
Answer me this, Dan. Did you release your Oklahoma Rhode Island preview yet?
Oh yes, I did.
You did. Okay, yep. I must have missed that one. I don't remember reading that one. So it's out there, but spoil it for the folks at home and for me, who I can't remember offhand. But did you pick Oklahoma in that game?
God, no. They're not even going to come close to Rhode Island and the way they play defense. I don't think it. I think I actually had Oklahoma losing by double digits. I'm not positive on the score. I will check it because I have it up I have it up right here. But I'm pretty sure like the line is 2. And for those who haven't read the articles, I do a pretty darn good job with the betting lines. I do a lot. I've placed my wagers for the tournament on Thursday and Friday. I'm going with my picks of what I'm saying here, but we go over the betting lines, and the line is minus 1.5 right now for Rhode Island, and the score prediction that I have is Rhode Island 69, Oklahoma 61, so an 8-point victory for Rhode Island. Their defense is just too good, and I mean it's Trae Young and nobody else. So.
And this was my theory, and Lord knows that's true. And you can't afford for him to start shooting 30%. And here's the other thing: that's why the back end of the season tailed off for Oklahoma, is because those assist numbers weren't there. I don't even know how he ended up still leading the country in assists. To be honest with you, he stacked that first half of the season up so good with those numbers that he won these titles. But I'm not sure that. So maybe, do you think the same has anything to do with it? Maybe it was he struggled more in conference play and was killing it out of conference because, once we got to conference play, everybody in the Big 12 was studying Trae Young and they had film on him and they know what to do. And in the part of the season, it wasn't. So do you think that may play into factor a little bit? Maybe Rhode Island doesn't quite have the scouting report that any of the Big 12 teams did, or do you think they're going to be locked in and there's no chance?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's enough film out there. I mean, I think it's Dan Hurley is the Rhode Island coach. He's good enough at watching film during his days. He knows how to break it down and see what works and what doesn't work. So I definitely think his struggles later on in the season definitely had to do with teams starting to figure out the Oklahoma offense, which was Trae Young. So and it's not only that, but Rhode Island is one of the best perimeter defending teams in the nation. I think they're second or third in 3-point field goal percentage defense, holding teams under 28%. I have it in the article, but I mean, their defense is astounding, and they have some players. Terrell, I believe his name is their best player, but he can lock you down on the defensive side. So you match him up with Trae Young, they're not going to give him any type of room, trying to run screens or anything. But he's their primary ball handler, so coming up the court, they're going to have a guy on him at all times. So I just think Trae Young's going to struggle a little bit. He's probably going to try and play some hero ball in his first and probably only NCAA tournament game. And there's just nobody else. So if he doesn't do it, there's nobody there to be that second-hand man.
Rhode Island gives up 67 points per game. They do not turn the ball over, and they're top 10 in forcing turnovers. And that, to me, does not spell great news for Trae Young, who I can totally see maybe tries a little bit too hard. And if he puts up another one of those, like he's been shooting, like 7 for 22 type of games, it's that, yeah, you're right. It's early exit for Trae Young and crew. So I don't know. As far as snubs go, I think that's it. No, I don't think any of these teams are really. Even the USC, Notre Dame, were they going to make any kind of real noise in the tournament anyway?
No, I mean the thing with Notre Dame was Bonzie Colson coming back healthy. They struggled without him, and now that he's back in the lineup, did he deserve it there? But I mean, overall, Notre Dame's resume to me wasn't wasn't good enough. And I didn't think any of those teams were really even Sweet 16 teams. They weren't going to make it into the second weekend.
So surprises, what may have been a surprise to you? Well, first of all, do we agree on the number one seeds? Let's back up to that, because I was quite shocked that the Big East got 2 number one seeds. To me, I guess Xavier has the resume, but I don't see them as a number one seed. Other than that, me personally, I would have picked Duke in that other number one seed. But, and I mentioned this earlier, Dan, I'm really not in favor of the committee this year, because we had a discussion maybe 2-3 weeks ago, our way too early Final Four predictions, and I had Kansas, Michigan State, and Duke as 3 of those. I don't remember the other team, but anyway, I know I had Kansas, Michigan State, and Duke as 3 of my Final Four participants, and if they were seated differently, I would still have them today, but they're all placed in the same damn region. That screwed me, and to me, that's tough. That's really tough. So I probably would have moved Duke to that other number one seed, but what do you think?
Yeah, I was okay with it. I mean, Xavier has some solid non-conference wins and in-conference wins, beating Villanova. So I wasn't too upset with it. I thought overall, the top seeds were pretty solid. I had some issues with the lower ranked seeds, particularly my hometown guys. Buffalo, there's no way they should be a 13 seed. They completely dominated the MAC, and they're honestly one of the best offensive teams in the country. They have 2,000-point scorers on their team. They're just overall, they're better than the 13 seed. And when I see a Davidson who won a tough conference tournament in the A10, but they weren't even going to make the tournament, without winning their conference tourney. I don't see them as a 12 seed. And you were looking for that preview. You said you might be hating on the SEC, but Kentucky's going to demolish Davidson, and it's not even going to be close. So it's just little tiny seeding things like that kind of upset me. But other than that, I was pretty fair with a lot of it, but that Buffalo being a 13, and not only being a 13, but you're drawing the best 4.
That's what I was about to say.
You're the lowest ranked 13.
Dan, I think you would have been in great shape had you drawn Auburn.
Yeah, basically any of the other ones. I would have loved Gonzaga even. I think
Wichita State.
Yeah, it's just you get Arizona, and I got up close and personal with Arizona because they ended Colorado's season in the conference tournament, and you don't understand. Like now, I'm okay with DeAndre Ayton being the number 1 pick in the NBA draft because I've watched him up close and personal for the last 3 games.
Are they underseeded?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that FBI, the whole pro Sean Miller, all that kind of caught up to him a little bit just in the committee's eyes because there's no way you win the Pac-12 tournament, regular season and conference tournament. I know it's not a great league, but they have some of the best. They have the best player probably in college basketball right now in DeAndre Ayton. His stat line against USC was disgusting. And I'm just worried that UB is not going to be able to come close to stopping him. I don't know many people that can.
Spoiler, they're in my Final Four. That 4 seed is in my Final Four, and from a lot, I mean like 80% of ESPN analysts that I've seen over this marathon over the last several days has Arizona in the Final Four. That's what $100,000 can get you. But I was on them from the get-go. Now, when it looked like Trier was going to be down, and not healthy, and I don't know. And Ayton has really been coming along, and with this kind of, I guess investigation kind of looming, I honestly didn't think Sean Miller was going to last 2 weeks ago. I thought his day was coming that day, like 2 Fridays ago. I didn't think he would make it past that day. When he came out and had the interview. So it kind of blew them off. But if you're telling me they're coming back at full strength, DeAndre Ayton gets better by the game. I really like Arizona, and I'm not opposed to their draw at all because I've told you before, I do not believe in Virginia, which they just lost their 6th man of the year and 4th leading scorer. He's out. So you may want to think about those brackets if you got Virginia going a long way. Not a huge deal. 4th leading scorer, DeAndre Hunter. But 6th man, so a very key piece of their team that they lost. So I'm not in favor of them, really. I'm not. You mentioned the SEC non-bias that I'm going to have. I don't have any SEC team going, for sure not in the Elite Eight. I don't think I'll have to double check that. But I have Florida going to the Sweet 16, and that may be it. But I'm not in favor of that. I think the SEC is deep, but not good. So are we saying that the Big East is the best conference in the land, Dan? Because they got 2 number 1 seeds.
It's top heavy. Yeah, I mean, the top of the conference, I would pit up against anybody. I mean, even like Creighton. I think Creighton can beat any team on any given night.
Butler has a tough matchup with Arkansas. I saw you pick Arkansas.
I just previewed that one, so I'm kind of close to it. And the magic number in that is 80. If Arkansas hits 80 points, they're going to win. 17-1 this year when they reach 80 points. 6-10. I believe it was when they don't. So if they can hit 80 points and they average 81, Butler averages 79. So it's going to be a high scoring game. So if they hit 80, I think Arkansas is winners.
It scares me, but I like Arkansas and I was really high on Arkansas about 6 days ago before they got molly-whopped by Tennessee. Before that game, I was real high on Arkansas because they got the senior backcourt, which you need in Barford and Macon, and they have the lottery pick in Daniel Gafford, which led the league in dunks. This dude is going to be special. Daniel Gafford is the name to watch out for. In case you don't watch much SEC basketball or Arkansas basketball, this dude is a super stud, super freshman. So you mix a lottery pick along with a senior backcourt that can score, and that's a team that can do damage in the tournament. It's just that, unfortunately, I think they got a tough draw because Butler's no slouch, coming from what may be the best conference in the country. We'll see. And then if they do happen to get by that, they got Isaac Haas and your guys from Purdue waiting on them. So that would be a tough matchup for Arkansas. But we'll break down the regions a little bit further. But any surprise, as far as surprises, anything else that's kind of shocked you or just you thought his team was seated too high or too low?
No, overall, I was pretty happy with it. Just looking at the bracket right now, I mean, nothing really jumps out to me besides what's already mentioned. But I'm looking forward to it. I think there's going to be quite a few upsets this year. And I've looked at other brackets, and obviously it's just random guys, but they're not predicting a lot of upsets. But I think this year there's a lot of parity in college basketball, so you're going to kind of see that.
Yep, it's going to be entertaining. Kicking off really tonight, Tuesday night. So you're really high on them, huh?
Yeah. You having Florida beating, I think Florida is going to lose to whichever team wins tonight, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm very high on St. Bonaventure, the best backcourt, I think, in the nation. 2 seniors, Jalen Adams, Matt Mobley. You combine them together, they average over 50 points a game. I like their style, and they're coming in hot. They did lose to Davidson in the semis of the A10, but before that, I think it was 12 or 13 games in a row that they won. So they have the potential to be a lethal team. I have them in the Sweet 16 at least.
There you go. All right. So I'll tell you what, let's put a bookmark in the tournament just for a second, guys. We're going to come back to it. A whole lot more to break down on the tournament. I promise you that. And we'll give our Sweet 16 predictions. But there's so much going on in the NFL right now. We got to talk about all the moving and shaking going on because the whole landscape is being repainted in the NFL right now. So let's talk about it. You're listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. I am Brandon Reed, one of your hosts. Our other host is Dan Schalk. Just the two of us. Dan, we can make it if we try all the way through this podcast. Whole lot of basketball and a whole lot of NFL. Hey, how about those Titans making moves, signing the former Super Bowl MVP, Malcolm Butler, spending that money.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that your team can, because as a Cowboys fan, we're just hoping and praying we don't waste it on one player. Thank you, Sammy Watkins, for signing with Kansas City. I was really worried about that. But yeah, good for the Titans. Playoff team. And if they can add to that and Marcus Mariota can actually throw more touchdowns than interceptions, I think you have a legit chance, even with a bonehead linebacker at head coach.
I like the move. It's big news. I think it's really going to help. And look at this, Dan. I got friends texting me about it right now. Did you see the Malcolm Butler sign with the Titans? And right there. So It's big news, but they were going to have to do something because with 50 million in cap space, you need to go out there and spend that money. So I was hoping they were going to be pretty active early in the free agency period, and it looks like they are. So let's backtrack. Just I don't really even know where to begin here. We're going to have to go back several days, Dan. But one of the first dominoes that dropped. Was the news that the Broncos were going to get their guy, and that really kind of the dominoes really started to drop with that. Keenum going to the Broncos, good move for both sides.
If you're Case Keenum, it's a good move. If you're Denver, I think you're getting a glorified Trevor Siemian. I was pretty low on Keenum throughout the year. I think he had a great season, but do I think he's going to replicate that type of year? No, not at all. So I think you're getting a little bit better Trevor Siemian. So maybe that can get you into the playoffs. But I would have liked Denver to go after. I mean, I'm not even high on Kirk Cousins, but even Kirk Cousins or just draft a guy. I think with this, you're not going to draft a guy now. And I would look at them possibly trading back with the Bills in the draft, where the Bills get the 5 pick and Denver gets the 12 and some other compensation. But I didn't get that one too much. I thought that was kind of the head scratcher that let those dominoes fall.
You are a Case Keenum hater, Dan.
Not really. We know what he is. You know who Case Keenum is.
Which is a very good improvement for Denver. Let's just they don't have to worry about the quarterback position now. They've been bouncing back and forth between Trevor Siemian and Paxton Lynch, and even brought Brock Osweiler back. We're going backwards here, so I have no problem with Case Keenum. What was his payday, or has that even been announced?
I think it was like 2 years, 30 million, 35 million, something like that.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad. So you got that happening, and then the news that let's see, what's the next big news? I guess it was Sam Bradford. Where was he going? To the Cardinals.
Cardinals, yeah.
And I don't know if this has really been solidified or confirmed yet, but it's Kirk Cousins going to be going to Minnesota. Is Minnesota the Jets maybe? Is that the only two?
Yeah, Minnesota, a 3-year, $82 million deal, the first fully guaranteed multi-year contract in the NFL. So all $82 million are guaranteed to Kirk Cousins.
Wow. Okay, so that is done. Let's see.
Yes. I mean, you had Tyrod get traded to the Bills, or get it traded from the Bills to the Browns.
We got a mailbag question about that, so we'll break down the Browns a little bit further. But yes, I guess that was maybe the first domino as far as the QB carousel. But a whole lot going on today.
McCown is back to the Jets, and they're working on a deal with Teddy Bridgewater as we speak right now. So maybe the Jets are going to be having a little competition at quarterback. Isaiah Crowell is also a Jet now. I know your favorite fantasy running back.
Well, no, I did not see that, but he's one of my guys, and Nick Pertins has got a question for us, and he addresses kind of the backup running back situation because the Titans did cut ways with DeMarco Murray, and Isaiah Crowell was on my short list of veteran free agents that I wouldn't mind picking up, so X him off the list. We'll talk more about that, but I did not see that one. You mentioned Sammy Watkins to Kansas City. It's like Kansas City's just like, all right, we're going to become an offensive juggernaut and damn with defense.
Yeah, get Mahomes' weapons. I don't mind it. We'll see if he can actually stay on the field and be healthy. But I like the idea of getting more weapons for Mahomes. Packers made some news today. They got Jimmy Graham and cut Jordy Nelson.
So what do you think about that? Is Jordy Nelson's time is he on the back end? I mean, that was kind of a shocker to me because that's Aaron Rodgers' main guy.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely on the back end of his career, but I think he still has solid years left. I mean, if you're Green Bay, you're basically trading Jimmy Graham for Jordy Nelson. I know they play different positions, but they're going to be targets.
Jimmy Graham's more past his prime than Jordy to me. I think
he's more injury prone. I know Jordan Nelson has had some serious injuries as of late, but every year Jimmy Graham has something. So I don't really like that move too much for Green Bay. And Green Bay usually doesn't make splashes in free agency, so I was kind of surprised that
So purpose for doing that, what do you think? I mean, how much was Jordy scheduled to make? Why would you want to?
It was probably more cap room, but I think they still gave Jimmy Graham a pretty decent payday. It was a 3-year deal. I'm not sure of the figures. So I don't think it could have been too much cheaper than Jordy, but maybe it was. And that was kind of just a head-scratching move.
So what do you think they're doing now? Are they going to be looking to get a receiver in the draft? How do you replace that production?
They better, because I mean now they have a young Devontae Adams, but other than that they have Randall Cobb, who's just as old. They might release him as a cap hit as well. So you have Geronimo Allison and a couple other young guys, but nothing too special. So yeah, I would definitely look at them to add some wide receivers in the draft.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a head scratcher to me. Amendola parted ways. I'm not sure if you mentioned that one, but Amendola's parting ways with the Pats to go to division rival, I'm not sure if it's rival, but the Dolphins anyway. I mentioned Sam Bradford reportedly going to the Cardinals.
The Bears got Allen Robinson and Trey Burton. I don't know why Trey Burton is worth $34 million, but
he's better than Jason Witten.
Oh, get out of here. Oh, my God. I'm going to have an aneurysm if you start talking about – who did you say? Sprinkle. Jeremy Sprinkle.
Jeremy Sprinkle, yeah. He's better than a 42-year-old Jason Witten.
Maybe when he is 42, but he's not 42 yet.
Oh, he's knocking on the door. Richard Sherman, he's going to the 49ers. The Titans, Malcolm Butler. I know there's more out here. We just barely scratched the surface here. This stuff is really breaking like crazy. So Malcolm Butler, Jonathan Stewart expected to go to the Giants. So what do we think about that, Dan? What's going on with that second pick with the Giants too? Because I'm not sure I don't think we have a Buffalo Bills question, but the Buffalo Bills, by moving Tyrod Taylor now, they're stacking picks, and they have, what do they have, like a 12 and a 21 or 22? Thought is they may try to move up and grab a quarterback. I mean, what are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, the talk in Buffalo is definitely that they are going to package some picks to move up and grab their guy. Ryan Thomas of the Thomas Take Sports podcast thinks it's either going to be Rosen or Darnold, because the Bills scouted those two quarterbacks more than anything else this season.
And Josh Allen is going number 1 to Cleveland?
Maybe. I'm not a huge mock drafter, because it's all full of smoke screens and you never really know. And we always see stupid things happen, like Mitch Trubisky going to the Bears 2nd overall last year from a trade up of 1 spot. So there's always something.
The Browns walking away. I don't know how they're going to do this, but I see the Browns walking away in most mock drafts with Josh Allen and Saquon Barkley, whether it be 1 or 4. They flip-flop, but somehow they're walking away with those 2 players, which I think is highly unlikely. Who's got the number 3 pick?
The Colts.
The Colts. Okay, so it really depends on what they want to do, because I don't know if the Giants stand pat now that they have Jonathan Stewart. Do you think that sways them from going Saquon Barkley? Or
I would, if I'm the Giants, I would hope not. Like a 32-year-old Jonathan Stewart. I mean, he's going to be nothing. He doesn't have. I don't think he has much left in the tank at all. So I wouldn't expect too much out of him. So I wouldn't stop if I was David Gettleman, the Giants GM. But I think the Giants are looking to move out of that number 2 spot more than anything else. But if Barkley's there, I would take him. A lot of Giants fans want a quarterback. I don't see that happening.
No, I see no need to focus on that at all right now. No need, because Eli has at least 3 more good years in my opinion, and I think that's the opinion of Gettleman as well, and Shermer.
Yeah, it should be. It's just Giants fans don't always agree like that. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to kind of see how the dominoes fall on draft night. Because it's honestly right now it's just smoke screens and just talk. There's no confirmed anything.
Yeah, I don't know how the Browns would walk away with Josh Allen and Saquon Barkley with 1 and 4. I would just hate to think that either the Giants or the Colts would let Saquon Barkley get away. I don't know, that maybe they have other issues, but Colts have lost another wide receiver because Dante Moncrief is going to Jacksonville. So Jacksonville basically replaces Allen Robinson with Dante Moncrief. Not quite an even swap, though, right, Dan?
No, but they were they were able to sign Marquise Lee. They had Dede Westbrook, who missed a lot of last year. Alan Hearns is still there. Keelan Cole is still there as well. Who was a rookie last year, kind of came onto the scene. And they spent a good chunk of change on offensive guard Andrew Norville from Carolina, who the Giants were expected to sign, but the Jaguars tossed a pretty penny at him. So you're shoring up the offensive line a little bit more. So I like the moves that the Jags are making.
Haloti Ngata is going to the Eagles. The Eagles are just stacking their team.
Yeah, but they're stacking them with old players. Ngata's past his prime. Michael Bennett's past his prime. I'm not impressed with what the Eagles are doing. You can say, oh, he's a Cowboys fan, he's doing that. But you're stacking your team with older veteran players, but they're all not in their primes anymore.
That's New England's formula. It works for New England year after year.
Bill Belichick and Nick Foles and Carson Wentz are not the ageless Tom Brady.
True, but they're also Philadelphia. That is not navigating the AFC, which is much tougher in my opinion. So we'll see. I love what the Eagles are doing. I think they're prohibitive favorites right now. If I had to name one team, unless somebody really starts doing some stuff, New Orleans did what they had to do, re-signing Drew Brees. Is Danny Woodhead going to play again?
Yeah, he'll probably go to the Patriots.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Now, this is one of the – and men, your bill – or not your bill. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, don't do that. Ugh, makes me ill.
The Bills are doing work, and I do like what they're doing. But Star Lotulelei, how do you pronounce that? Lotulelei?
I pronounce it terrible. This was a terrible signing by the Bills. Ryan Thomas got on my case today. Let me tell you, it's a 5-year deal. Money isn't known yet, but Star Lotulelei is the most overrated defensive tackle in the NFL.
He was still one of the top 3 or 4 most coveted defensive tackles in free agency.
Well, good on the Bills for signing that, because if you look at his numbers have gone down every year he's entered the league. The last 3 seasons, he's ranked in the bottom 15 of all defensive tackles per Pro Football Focus. So analytically, he's garbage. 6 times in 2017, he was the lowest rated defensive lineman per Pro Football Focus. He just doesn't do anything. You think he's a run stuffer. He was one of the worst defensive tackles against the run this season. So I'm not impressed with that signing, and I can only imagine what they tossed at him dollar-wise, because you're not giving him a 5-year deal if it's not a pretty penny. So once that contract comes out, I'm going to be even more bashing it, and I'm probably going to write an article and bash it because I hate that move. I like their other moves.
They're getting
Tyrod,
Cordy Glenn.
Cordy Glenn. I love those moves. Love them. But this Star Lotulelei signing was absolutely atrocious.
No, they're getting better, Dan. They're spending their money.
They still don't have a quarterback.
That is key. That is key. But
so
they're positioning themselves.
They're probably going to trade up for Josh Rosen, who I have bust written all over. So that would be very Bills-like. You like that? You fired me up saying the Bills were my team. Oof.
Hey, I like what they're doing so far. They're doing something.
That's true.
Your guy Orlando Scandrick is gone.
Yeah. Well, he asked to be released. Was he actually released?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he requests his release, so I'm not going to keep a player who doesn't want to be here.
That don't mean anything. Jerry doesn't have to give that. Although we have better corners on the team. Scandrick's past his prime too, and he's always injured. So I'm okay with it if it happens.
Getting kind of in the weeds here. Richard Sherman, does he make any difference now with the 49ers for that team?
In the locker room, I think he can make a locker room presence. They've got a lot of young guys on that defense, so make an impact that way. He's a solid number 2 guy. I mean, I wouldn't have him as my best corner on the team. His skills are definitely going on the downside of his career, but I'm not too upset with it. You steal away a guy from a division rival, so if anything, it adds fuel to the fire when you play him.
Torrey Smith goes to the Panthers. I'm just kind of skimming now. This is we're really kind of getting into the weeds now. But anyway, the Rams got another one, Aqib Talib, which you came out and said he's old. That's what your common response. He's old. But damn, dude, the Rams. I do not want to play them. They're putting targets everywhere out there on the opposing side of the field for a quarterback. I feel sorry for any NFC West quarterback that's playing the Rams this year.
Yeah, Aqib Talib is the cornerback version of Starlu Tulele. So
okay.
That's all I'm going to say there. I already put out the analytics on how bad he was and how his skills have gone down. Did you know he's top 5 in missed tackles, though? Can't wrap up.
Oh, well, he'll do a little bit better job with the stacked defense in Los Angeles. Change of scenery.
So change of scenery makes you wrap up?
It's something that the high altitude in Denver, it's hard, you get tired, you get winded. So yeah.
He's holding too many Glocks and his arms are getting tired. So maybe in LA that won't happen.
I love the smell of gun smoke in the morning. But yeah. Okay. So anything else as far as free agency? Maybe I should check my phone because this is where things are really breaking down. But anything else?
I think we caught most of it. Just some other stuff. But Tremaine Johnson went to the Jets, $15 million a year right before we went on air. So that was a pretty big expense. The Raiders signed Derek Carrier, tight end. You ever heard of him? Probably not, because he's terrible.
He's old.
Terrible. Yeah, but I think you got most of it. Adrian Peterson's about to be cut. Another guy who is terrible.
He's old. So is hey, Titans could bring back CJ2K.
Okay. Good. That would be bad, but okay. He's got nothing left.
I got answers for Nick Pertins as far as what the Titans should do a little bit later. So we got mailbag questions to get into. All right. So that's just breaking. There'll be a lot more to talk about next week. The basketball will slow down just a little bit as we go from 68 teams to 16. So we'll have a little less college basketball to talk about. But as for now, we do. So we're going to go back to college basketball and break down these regions and give our Sweet 16 predictions next. You are listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. Myself, Brandon Reed, and Dan Schalk, my co-host for the podcast. Just the two of us, man. We're going to walk all the way through this. So ranking the regions, Dan, do you want to take a stab at that? I think you already know how I feel about the toughest region, and that's going to go to the Midwest with Kansas, Duke, and Michigan State, who I would have all had in the Final Four had they been separated in any way, any formula at all. I would have had them all in the Final Four. So you agree there, Midwest, yes. Hardest region for sure?
Yes, I do agree.
So what's going to be interesting here, okay, let me even propose it this way to you. This has been kind of the consensus of the bracket pickers and predictions and everything I've seen. So right now is that really from the announcement of the tournament brackets that the East was the easiest and Villanova has the easiest path to the Final Four. Do you agree with that?
No, I actually have the East as my second toughest region out of all of them. I love Purdue, sleeper. They're in my Final Four. Even though I've said in our way too early Final Four, I would have the 3 seed Texas Tech in the Final Four. I think they're one of the best 3 seeds, if not the best 3 seed in the tournament. I'm high on West Virginia. I have the East as the second toughest region coming out.
Okay. Well, I do have it as the easiest. So my second hardest region would be the South with it's tough. Virginia, Cincinnati, Tennessee, and then the team who I think is eventually going to win the region, Arizona. So you got a lot of tough teams there to fight through. Kentucky is in that region. So I think that's pretty tough. Just basically because I got the 4 seed as I think the one going through the region. So that is why I see it that way. So my third toughest would be the West, of course. So there's several teams in here that I don't really care for. I'm not. First of all, I'm not buying Xavier as a 1 seed. I know that Big East the Big East was a very tough conference, but I don't know. They kind of came out of nowhere and took a 1 seed for me personally. I don't know, man. North Carolina is not the same team. I think North Carolina. Let me back up and take a look at this, but I'm going to make a proclamation right now. I don't know. It's close. But North Carolina and Cincinnati are pretty close together as far as being the worst 2 seeds to me, in my opinion. This is not close to the North Carolina team of the last 2 years. Not even close. I'm just not big on the SEC. You got Missouri in there. You got Texas A&M in there. So I don't know. But anyway, so that's the way I rank it. Midwest, toughest, then the South and the West, and then the East where Villanova is. So 1 through 4, Dan, what do you think? We already went through half of it.
Yeah, I have Midwest, East, South, and then West as the weakest. I actually have, just in the West alone, I have Michigan losing in the first round, Gonzaga losing. I have Gonzaga winning a game, Ohio State losing. I don't see some of those seeds even advancing out of the first round, some of the higher seeds. So I think you're going to see some upsets coming in that region. I have them as the weakest. I'm with you. I don't think North Carolina is that strong. You never know. They are the defending champs. But there's just some teams I'm not high. I'm high on Cincinnati. I actually have them in my Final Four right now. So I like that South region. The way I kind of compared it is I compared like 1 seeds, Virginia versus Villanova in the East. Who's better? I think Villanova is. So I kind of compared it seeding to seeding in the different regions. And, we probably looked at it a little bit differently, but that's why I had the East so high, is because I think Purdue is the best number 2 seed. I'm high. I think Texas Tech is the best number 3 seed. So there's definitely you have different ways to look at it, but either way, it's I can't wait for Thursday. I can't wait just for the podcast to be over to watch St. Bonaventure, take on UCLA. So I'm pumped up right now, Newbury, pumped up.
Okay, well, great. Well, let's get through it then. Let's go through the regions. So let's kind of start with the hardest one. We're gonna go through them to at least give our Sweet 16 predictions. So let's go ahead and start with that Midwest. You go ahead, Dan. Take it off. Let
me start with something real quick. I'm not actually going to do this, but if I were, Penn is the first 16 seed that I think can beat a 1. Kansas is tough, but this Penn team is not a 16 seed. I've watched them play
Joe Lenardi
times. It's insane. I can't believe they're a 16. They are a fantastic team. That game, the line is over in double digits. Lay the points with Penn because that's going to be a single-digit ball game throughout. And I would not be floored if Pennsylvania beats Kansas in the first round. I'm not going to pick it because I don't have those kind of cojones. But don't be surprised if that game is close throughout. So I have Kansas, Seton Hall, NC State. I brought that prediction out. I have Seton Hall, I believe, winning that game. Just overall 1 through 4. They have 4 great starters, from Angel Delgado down low to some other guys, all averaging around 15 points a game. So they're deep. I like Seton Hall. New Mexico State's going to beat Clemson without Dante Gratham. They're just not the same team. So I like New Mexico State to pull the upset in there. Auburn, I do have beating Charleston. Charleston's a weak 13 seed, but yet they were ranked ahead Buffalo. Doesn't make sense to me. So I have Auburn winning. I have TCU losing to Arizona State when they beat Syracuse Wednesday night. Arizona State can hit it from deep. They have lethal scorers all over. So I have Arizona State winning. Michigan State's going to take care of Bucknell. Rhode Island, as mentioned earlier, is going to handle Trae Young in Oklahoma. And I have Duke beating Iona.
Okay, we're going to differ quite a bit here then. And you just mentioned I'm not predicting Penn to beat Kansas. I mean, I hear you, but I'm not predicting that. Seton Hall, I'm predicting Seton Hall to beat North Carolina State. You mentioned Angel Delgado. He's going to be one of my players to watch in this whole tournament, but not only him, Desi Rodriguez and Kadeem Carrington. I like Seton Hall a lot. And if they're potentially coming out of that toughest conference, I like them a lot. Let me just go ahead and spoil it. I got Seton Hall beating Kansas. You thought Penn stood a chance to beat Kansas. I got Seton Hall. It's Seton Hall's time. They've been knocked out of the first round the last 2 years to Arkansas and Gonzaga. It's Seton Hall's time. These guys are seniors. They're ready. I like Seton Hall a lot. They've been battle tested. I got them beating Kansas in the next round to get to the Sweet 16. Moving on down, I've got Clemson. I'll have to go back and research what you saw in New Mexico State to have them beating Clemson, a very good athletic team. You mentioned they did lose one of their best players. That's why I'm not picking Auburn, which Auburn did too, and you've seen the slump that Auburn has been in as of late when Alabama just mollywopped the number 1 seed in the SEC tournament, Auburn, because Auburn lost, I forgot his name, but they lost one of their best players in the last several weeks too. So I'm actually going to pick Charleston in that matchup. What's it? 13-4. So there's your 4 seed going down. I'm not going to go with this upset of Syracuse or Arizona State. I'm going to go with TCU to continue that the 6 seed winning on. It doesn't matter. They're going to play Michigan State next. Whoever wins that, it doesn't matter. Michigan State will beat Bucknell. And right here, a team I am very high on is Rhode Island. It's just unfortunate they're going to have to play Duke in the next round. So there's half of it right there. I kind of just gave you my Sweet 16. I do have Seton Hall beating Kansas. I do have Clemson moving on to face Seton Hall. Then Michigan State beating TCU and Duke beating Rhode Island. So I got an 8 and a 5 in the Sweet 16, Seton Hall and Clemson, and I've got a 3 and a 2, Michigan State and Duke in that region. Go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, I have Kansas in the Sweet 16, New Mexico State in the Sweet 16, so that's a 1 and a 12. I have Arizona State. No, I'm just kidding. Michigan State in the Sweet 16, so that's a 3, and Duke, which is a 2 in the Sweet 16. So New Mexico State's really my only big underdog in that bracket reaching.
What did you see in them? I've looked through all this, but I don't remember anything that stood out to me about New Mexico State.
They're just overall a very good team, solid team. They play. They don't turn the ball over a lot. Play solid defense, and they can score. So they were in the tournament not too long ago. But my preview will be the first one published tomorrow morning, so you can read it then. Clemson, New Mexico State, but New Mexico State's going to win.
Okay, and I still got time to change that, but I'm pretty sold on Seton Hall. You're going to shake me of that. I'm pretty sold on Seton Hall.
I think I believe 100% they could beat Kansas. So, I like Seton Hall too. I think the players you mentioned, they have 4 great guys who just, they're bulked together when you look at their numbers, and most of them are seniors. I think one isn't. And overall, I mean, they're a senior group, and they're looking to lick their wounds from the last few tournaments.
Yep, they got size and experience. They're an 80, 40, and 15 team, meaning 80 points a game, 40 rebounds a game, and 15 assists a game. That's a pretty solid team. And 4 of their 5 leading scorers are seniors and over 6'4" tall. So I just like Seton Hall a lot, man. I think it's their time to finally make a little bit of noise in this tournament. So, all right, let's move it over, and let's just slide over to the left and go into the West. Dan Shaw, first round.
Yeah, we're not going to see any type of 116 upset here, Xavier. I do have Missouri beating Florida State. I think that's just a complete toss-up. You never know with Michael Porter Jr. coming back. But I'm going that because of Cassius Robertson, my Canisius grad, who transferred there this year, rooting for him. I do have South Dakota State beating Ohio State. Gonzaga barely slipping by UNC Greensboro. Houston is going to beat San Diego State. I do have Montana putting the whooping on Michigan. Texas A&M beating Providence. And North Carolina beating Lipscomb. Congratulations on your first tournament, Lipscomb.
And you get North Carolina. Congratulations. So yeah, I'm rolling with Xavier. No upsets there, and I'm going with Florida State in that toss-up matchup, like you said, because I saw Michael Porter in that SEC game, that one game he played, and they got beat by Georgia, the third worst team in the SEC, and Michael Porter Jr. did not look good. I don't remember shooting numbers, but it wasn't great, and I'm just not sure that he is ready to really make an impact and carry a team like that. Missouri would have to hit 12 threes, in my opinion, to beat Florida State, who is pretty athletic and tournament tested. They've been here. They're ready. So I don't think Missouri's quite ready for that challenge, but it is a toss-up. Wouldn't be surprised to see Missouri win. I just don't see it happening. I'm going to go away from this big upset everyone is talking about in the Dominator Mike Don. I'm going to go with Ohio State because I looked today and I forgot the guy's name. I think his last name is Wesson or something like that, but a freshman. He's a pretty damn big dude too. He's like 6'10", 270. So they got a pretty big guy too. And I don't know. When everybody starts throwing their cards in these upsets, it kind of scares me off a little bit. And Ohio State is a pretty good team who beat some good teams in a tough conference and got the 5 seed. So I'm staying away from that upset. Gonzaga, I'm rolling with the Zags pretty deep in this tournament. Wink, wink. And San Diego State. I'm picking San Diego State over Houston because I saw Houston, and I understand Rob Gray is one of my players to watch. He leads the team in points and assists. He wears the man bun, but he's going to be one of those appealing players to watch in the tournament, but I think just for one game, because I saw that same team come to Memphis without Memphis's best player and lose, and that shouldn't have happened. Because that's a little bit of my bias. That's some things that I saw in the American Athletic Conference very recently that just kind of stuck out to me. I know they bounced back in the conference tournament, but no way they should have came to Memphis and lost at that particular point in the season. So I'm going with San Diego State when the upset there. Michigan to beat Montana. The run Michigan is on, and everybody's saying Michigan's going to the Final Four. So I'm sipping a little bit of that Kool-Aid, I guess, just a little bit, enough to get them past Montana. Then I am going with Providence here. I am just not – there's one of my SEC bias comes in, I guess, where I'm just not in favor of the SEC. I understand that Texas A&M is athletic and they kill the boards, they crush the boards, but they don't shoot particularly well. They can be had if they have an off night. They play in the mud just a little bit, and they've been up and down all year long, losing some games that they probably should not have. So I don't know. I think that's that's going to be my motto about the whole SEC. Every single team from Kentucky to Florida, Arkansas, every single one of them, it depends on who shows up, and that's just something I don't know. So it makes it really, really hard to predict. But not really sold on Texas A&M. They probably should have got a little bit higher than a 7 seed if their resume is really true, if their resume is really as good as people are thinking it is. So not buying that, buying Providence. And then, of course, North Carolina to beat Lipscomb. No problems there. So I wind back up at the top with a Xavier Florida State matchup. I'm going with Xavier. I'm going with Gonzaga over Ohio State. I like Gonzaga again, man. I like Gonzaga again. What they've done, they do everything well. They don't do anything bad. They have no bad losses. They got a senior from Memphis, Jonathan Williams, who's tournament tested and experienced. Josh Perkins, Killian Tilly, they're just back. And I think the runs they've made as of late, Mark Few is just turning a machine around. And I really like Gonzaga a lot over Ohio State. I'm rolling with Michigan here over San Diego State. So, and North Carolina over Providence. So my Sweet 16 out of that region looks like this: Xavier, Gonzaga, Michigan, and North Carolina. That's my Sweet 16 in the West, Dan.
Yeah, I have Xavier moving on, South Dakota State moving on. The Dominator, you can't. This guy's going to be a first-round draft pick in the NBA draft. He's that good, so you're going to watch him absolutely dominate. I have Montana moving on to the Sweet 16, beating a Houston team. And then I have North Carolina advancing. So I have number 1, Xavier, number 12, South Dakota State, number 14, Montana, number 2, North Carolina.
That's a crazy region, Dan. That's a crazy region. Okay, well, while we're at it, I've got some numbers here. So this is the Sweet 16 from last year. 3 number 1 seeds made it. 2 of the 2 seeds made it. 3 of the 3 seeds made it. All 4 seeds made it. And then there was 2 7 seeds. One of them happened to be South Carolina, who made it all the way to the Final Four. There was an 8 seed and there was an 11 seed. So you'd be stretching it. What do you got? What do you got in there? A 12 and a 14?
I do. Wow. Indeed.
Okay. Well, let's move all the way back up to the top and let's go through the South real quick. So no surprise here. I got Virginia winning. I'm going with Creighton over Kansas State. I got Kentucky. I'm not buying this Davidson hype. I think the future NBA players will find a way to get it together and clamp down on the outside on Davidson and not allow them to shoot like crazy. And Kentucky will move on. I've got Arizona beating Buffalo. Sorry about the draw, Dan. And I've got Loyola Chicago. Now, this is a very popular upset pick for a lot of folks. I've got them beating Miami. I'll tell you about them. They went to Florida and won by 6. So this is a team that can play for sure. They're 5th in the nation in points allowed, 16 assists per game, and 5 double-digit scorers. And they're loaded with seniors and juniors. So they're a very experienced team, and I think they got it what it takes. I got them making a little bit of run, a little bit of noise, and being the Cinderella this year. I've got Tennessee beating Wright State. I've got I'm actually picking a little bit of an upset here. I'm going with Tennessee and just the shock. Texas, I'm sorry, and just kind of the NBA factor of Mo Bamba. And I know they didn't really have a great Big 12 conference, but they're in the dance, and you never know when someone like Mo Bamba gets out on the floor. And I don't know, Nevada's had some injury issues, I think, and not really at full strength. So could be a little bit upset there. Texas over Nevada. And then, of course, I'm not picking Georgia State to beat Cincinnati. Cincinnati will move on. So first round out of the South, Dan.
I have Virginia moving on. I'm with you. Creighton will win that ball game. Kentucky over Davidson. Now, in my predictions piece, I did pick Arizona. But I think in my bracket, I'm probably going to pick Buffalo. This Buffalo team is not to be taken lightly, and I think you're going to see I really don't think they're going to win, but I think they're going to keep it a single-digit ball game. So we'll leave that
tough to deal with 2 7-footers.
Yeah, let's just leave that blank. Loyola Chicago, I'm with you. I'm on that train, especially with Bruce. I think it's Bruce Brown Jr. for the Hurricanes is out, left foot injury, and will not play this tournament. And that's a pretty big hit for the Hurricanes. I have Tennessee beating Wright State. I'm with you on Texas. I like Texas to beat Nevada. They've had a couple bad losses as of late, not as sharp as they were earlier in the year. And I have Cincinnati moving on, beating Georgia State.
Okay, so our first round is exactly the same. Wow. All right. Continue on to your Sweet 16.
I have Virginia beating Creighton. Buffalo or Arizona moving on.
Let's go ahead and say it. They know, Dan. They know.
Yeah, so Arizona probably moving on. Loyola Chicago into the Sweet 16, and I have Cincinnati into the Sweet 16.
Bam! No need for me to go any further. We completely agree that we got the same exact Sweet 16 there. So we've got a 1, a 4, 11, and a 2.
Like it.
That's very possible. That's very possible. I think that's a region. I think that's a region that could be had. Honestly, I think Loyola Chicago did draw a fairly good draw, and I'm not a believer in Tennessee. I know what they're capable of, but is that team going to show up? And you can't. I don't know. You just can't convince me that. I'm just kind of down on all those SEC teams because you never know what they'll. I mean, Kentucky just walked through it and won it again. You know, they've won 4 straight SEC tournament titles and 6 since Calipari's been there in 9 years. So I don't know. I don't really think there's any real stout team. But South Carolina surprised us last year as a 7 seed and made it all the way through. So you never know. So the East, I'll start this one out. Villanova. I've got Virginia Tech beating Alabama. I've got West Virginia beating Murray State. I've got Wichita State beating Marshall. I have got Florida surviving whatever your scenario is, St. Bonaventure, whatever, Dan. Partly because I think they got another one of those players to watch out for in the tournament. They got a couple of them, but Chris Chiozza out of Memphis, their point guard, super special player. If they can get it clicking with a guy from Arkansas, Kevon Allen, they got a pretty good thing going in Florida. And, of course, they're tournament tested. And I honestly think Florida could be the best team in the SEC if they play right. But anyway, so Florida moving on. And I'm picking the Stephen F. Austin upset, Dan. Now, you mentioned all the Texas Tech stuff. I read your article today and we're talking about their 5 starting seniors. But did you know 2 of their 3 leading scorers are not seniors? They're actually freshmen, Culver and Zaire Smith. And 3 guys they're only got 3 guys that score more than 7.5 points per game. And like I said, 2 of those guys are freshmen. So Stephen F. Austin just keeps ticking. They're one of those Cinderella type teams. And I think that they definitely can do it. They can do it. We'll see if it happens. And I'm not real high on Texas Tech. Arkansas, I've got Arkansas surviving. Like I said, the senior backcourt, Macon and Barford, along with Gafford, they should beat Butler. This game scares me, though. And then Purdue, of course, winning. Now, if Arkansas does win, I don't know that they have much of a chance of beating Purdue with those 2 7-footers, Isaac Haas, but it would be a great matchup to see Isaac Haas and Daniel Gafford go at each other for a game and see what happens. But I would have Purdue winning that matchup, moving on to the Sweet 16 to face, Florida, who would beat Stephen F. Austin. Working my way back up. And I'm picking Wichita State to beat West Virginia, kind of going all chalk here. And then Villanova to beat Virginia Tech. So I would have Villanova, Wichita State, Florida, and Purdue, which would be a 1, 2, 4, and 6 seed in the Sweet 16 out of the East.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. I hear you. Well, I'm going to go Villanova, beating the lovely winner of LIU, Brooklyn, and Radford. It will be Radford. I'm taking Alabama over Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech shoots the ball like crazy. 50% from the field is what they average for the year. But Alabama plays fantastic defense. As good as Colin Sexton is offensively, that whole team can lock you down on the defensive side of the ball, and they actually have some big men. Virginia Tech is small, can barely rebound, and doesn't block shots. Alabama's top 10, I believe, in block shots per game. So Alabama's going to win that one. West Virginia over Murray State, Wichita State over Marshall. Marshall's another embarrassing 13 seed when you compare it to Buffalo. It just doesn't make any sense. I have St. Bonaventure beating Florida because they will. You pick Stephen F. Austin. It still tugs at my heartstrings. What you might not know is my brother is actually a forest and wildlife and fisheries professor at Stephen F. Austin University, the Lumberjacks. And he lives in Nacogdoches and is rooting hard for Stephen F. Austin. Was a season ticket holder to their basketball team this year. So he sent me a lot of pictures. And I watched some games on ESPN3 quite a bit. And Stephen F. Austin, they're a good ball club. They'll run you up and down the floor. I don't like the draw. I just think Texas Tech is too experienced and too talented, especially if Keenan Evans is healthy and back. So I have Texas Tech beating Stephen F. Austin. Arkansas beating Butler because of 80 points. They will hit it, and they'll move to 18-1 on the year when they score 80 points or more. And Purdue is going to make CSU Fullerton wish they never even came. So I have Purdue advancing. I have Villanova barely beating Alabama. West Virginia beating Wichita State. St. Bonaventure, I want to say will beat Texas Tech, but I don't have that happening. But it could. It could. And Purdue beating Arkansas.
Yeah, we get a little mixed up here with the Floridas and the Wichita States. So Wichita State has another guy that was on my players to watch for the tournament.
Shamet?
Yes, Landry Shamet. But they also got a dude from right here close to where I'm at, Austin Reeves, who plays significant minutes too. But Wichita State is another one of those teams that has some guys that have just been grinding out for a year, and Landry Shamet is going to be one of those guys to watch in the tournament. So I just have a little bit more confidence in them than West Virginia. Hey, backing up to Virginia and Alabama, though, Virginia Tech and Alabama, one thing Alabama, they may have Colin Sexton, but one thing they have not done this year is beat Virginia, Duke, and North Carolina. And Virginia Tech has done all those things. So that's what swayed me in that 8-9 matchup, that right there. But all right, so we completely agree in one bracket, one region that is, and then we go our separate ways a little bit. But Stephen F. Austin, I would really like to see them pull off that upset. I think that would be big, and I think they're the kind of school that could do that. But we'll see. So I mentioned some of my guys, Dan, as far as just players to watch in the tournament. Angel Delgado started out with Seton Hall, like at Rob Gray, Houston, Daniel Gafford, Arkansas, Landry Shamet, Wichita State, Chris Chiosa, Florida. And okay, here's the guy I was talking about with Ohio State that I think could pose matchup problems for your dominator is Caleb Wesson, freshman, but dude's like 6'10", 270. So those are some of the guys. Not your name brands. There's a whole lot of lottery type pick guys in there, but I'm talking about the guys, in case you didn't know, you might find out over the course of the next couple of weeks. So those are just some of my guys. So did you have anybody in mind, Dan, that's kind of on that level? Like, you may not have heard of them, but you're going to get to know their name because they're going to hit some buzzer beaters. They're going to do some amazing things over the next week or so.
Yeah, there's a guy named Trey Young. No. I have Jalen Adams. I've talked him up all year on my fantasy sports talk. St. Bonaventure senior guard, former UConn transfer, but he's going to light it up. Nick Perkins, Buffalo's sixth man of the year, the MAC sixth man of the year. He's 1,000-point scorer. He's their leading scorer despite coming off the bench. And he's going to be the guy probably tasked with manning up DeAndre Ayton. So that'll be an interesting matchup, but I want to see how they do. Ahmed Rory, remember that name because Montana Grizzlies will be in the Sweet 16, and Ahmed Rory, former Oregon transfer, 4-star recruit, will be leading the way for Montana. So remember that name. Carson and Vincent Edwards, most people know him, but that's who actually leads Purdue. They have the 7-footers, Harms and Haas, but it's the Edwards non-brothers that lead that team. So I expect them to have a solid tournament. Just a couple other names. Mike Daum, you know him now, the Dominator. He's going to take the jack for 5. Jalen Brunson down, who I think is going to be the player of the year out of Villanova. So I like him. I also had Rob Gray down. You don't like Houston, but I do like Rob Gray and the Houston Cougars to at least win one game. But those are just some names. Colin Sexton's another one I had, but we just mentioned him. But Jalen Adams, Nick Perkins, Ahmed Rory, some 3 under-the-radar guys. Do not forget their names.
And, of course, you got the guys at the top of the projected NBA draft list. You know, your DeAndre Ayton, your Mo Bamba, Michael Porter Jr., Trey Young, several guys like that. So there's a whole, laundry list of guys like that. But those are just some of the guys. And it'll be interesting to find out who may step up and be that guy this year in the NCAA tournament. So March Madness, it's well underway. There's our Sweet 16 predictions. So we'll erase the bracket and start all over next week when we know who the 16 are on My Fantasy Podcast and talk about it all over again. But until then, let the madness begin. What we're going to do now is answer your mailbag questions. We didn't forget about you. We got the whole sack full. They're right here. I pulled them out. So we'll do that. You're listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for looking at the site every day. And you better right now if you care anything about draft, NFL draft, or college basketball, because I got a hunch Dan may get fired from his real job because he is pushing I don't know. What's the count now, Dan? How many more of the first round previews do you even have left? Because you pulled out at least 2025.
Yeah, I think I finished Thursday and I started on Friday, so I have maybe 8 to 10 to go, maybe. So I still have some work to do.
There you go. So you cannot miss it. You got to bookmark the site right now and go to it because all these breakdowns that Dan's putting out has pretty much everything you need to know, critical to fill out your bracket anyway. So check it out. So what we're going to do now is start answering questions from the peeps in no particular order as far as sports go. We're just going to go through them. We got 6, 7 questions here. We're just going to go through. So the first one comes from Frank Rippo. Do you like the Browns' flurry of moves over the past week? So we're probably going to go sideways on this too, Dan, but I actually do because I like bringing in Tyrod Taylor just because you have a guy now who finally, to me, and this is what I've been saying about the Browns, just bring in a guy who's a proven starter in the NFL. I don't care of what level of success he may have. Just bring in a guy where you don't have to worry about the quarterback position anymore and keep drafting bust after bust after bust. Just bring in a guy. And Tyrod Taylor is, like it or not, he's a playoff caliber quarterback because he's done it in Buffalo. So although this year was kind of up and down, but anyway, just bring in a guy like that. I don't really mind that. Brought in Jarvis Landry for a 3rd and 4th round pick. To me, that's not pretty bad because they got a ton of picks. They have a plethora of picks. They traded away Deshaun Kaiser. So, yeah, I like what they did, basically because they're getting some proven assets to me instead of draft picks, which they have plenty of draft picks anyway. So, I still try to probably trade out of that 4th pick or go defense because I'm saying that, of course, by picking Saquon Barkley number 1 is what I would advise to them, but they're going to get a quarterback. They're going to try to do a quarterback again. So I don't know. I'm just kind of in favor of stacking more talent, but I like what the Browns are doing because this is a little bit different approach and they're doing something, Dan. They're not just sitting back on these picks and hoping for the best and wishing and throwing pennies down the well and hoping they strike gold in the NFL draft. So I kind of like what they're doing.
Yeah, I definitely like the Jarvis Landry move, the Demarius Randall move. I like those. Tyrod Taylor, it's okay. I mean, they gave up more for Tyrod Taylor than they did for Jarvis Landry, which was kind of the head scratcher. But Tyrod, to me, I think he's only going to be a stopgap, be there for 1 year. They're still going to draft a guy and kind of groom him for that year. So I'm okay with it as long as that's the case, as long as they don't depend on Tyrod Taylor year in, year out, because he's not dependable. He's not a starting quarterback in the NFL. But the other moves, Jarvis Landry, I love him outside of Josh Gordon. I think their receiving core is top 10 now in the league. So I definitely like what the Browns are doing.
Too bad they're going to have Tyrod to throw to those weapons.
Yeah, that's going to suck. You got a quarterback who can't throw 200 yards passing a game, so that's going to be the rough part.
But again, I just like it because he's been under center, at least to try to get better, to win a game. You can't get any worse than what they have been. So they've got a proven asset under center now, I believe. No, he's not the best. And Buffalo was trying to get rid of him for 5 years, but they finally got a quarterback who is a proven starter in the NFL. Let's just start there and start building your team is what I advise. But I know they'll probably go quarterback. But yeah, I like it. Not bad. They're moving. They're moving and shaking, just like the Bills are moving and shaking, trying to do something. You got to do something. Thanks, Frank. Next one comes from, this is one of your boys, Dan, from Perez, Cowboys Nation, Montigua. Best landing spots for Ndamukong Suh. I would like him in a Cowboys uniform. Dan.
No,
you like him in a Cowboys uniform?
No, get away from me, Perez Montigua, with that garbage. Because not only can the Cowboys not afford him with the minuscule cap space that they have, he's aging. He likes to stomp on people's groins. I'm not a huge fan of Ndamukong Suh. He might play decent on the field, but he's never worth the price tag. I mean, if you want to talk about teams, I know the Bills just signed Star Lotulelei today. It's a terrible move, but I would have liked him there. I don't know. Maybe a reunion with the Lions might be pretty cool, but just not the Cowboys. Any other team but the Cowboys, I'm okay with.
Well, there's going to be a lot of teams with interest. Any team that has cap space there's going to be teams of interest. But I'm with you. I think he's the dirtiest player in the game. I don't think there's any questions about that. From what I've seen him do, it's not questionable things that he does on the football field. It's very intentional and deliberate, dirty plays that he does. And I've never liked the guy. But now he's also in that situation where he's aging, and he doesn't fit in every type of scheme, and he doesn't fit in every type of locker room. It did not work out really at all in Miami. Pretty unproductive in Miami. So there's not going to be every situation that he can fall into. Not everyone should be falling in love with this guy. I'm not sure how much salary he will demand, but I do think he should fall behind Sheldon Richardson, Dontari Poe. Haloti Ngata is signed, so or rumored to be signed. So all those guys, I think he should fall behind all of those guys. And I wouldn't want him anywhere near my locker room if I'm the Titans. But one fit I think I find intriguing, Dan, would be that silver and black Oakland Raiders. And I don't know exactly what their cap situation looks like, but that could be a very intriguing place for him, with Chucky straightening things out there. So, So I wrote down a few names here. The Rams, why not? The Rams, they're looking to have that beast of a defense, but I really like Oakland, maybe Seattle. Seattle's trying to get, I think, younger, but they have some needs now, and maybe New Orleans. So that's some possibilities, I think. And that's just me writing down some teams I think would be intriguing without really actually knowing what their particular salary cap situations look like. Seattle should have room, I would think. I'm not positive, but yeah, just for me personally, I wouldn't want him anywhere near my team. I'd look for all those guys. I don't know why Dontari Poe is slipping so much. I don't know why he didn't really work out in Atlanta this year, because I really like Dontari Poe, and I thought he was a huge part of the Chiefs' success when they were having success on defense. Of course, I'm a little bit biased here, kind of being from the hometown area, from Briarcrest High School in the Memphis area. So, but anyway, yeah, I think he would be behind all those guys in me personally, but he will have interest for sure. Didn't see anything regarding him today breaking digit in, any kind of rumors or anything kind of hardcore.
No, I have not. It's been silent. Although Muhammad Wilkerson just signed with the Packers, so the Packers doing even more spending in the free agent market. Something they never do.
Yeah. Knowing you know what they know. They know Aaron Rodgers' time is short now.
Yeah.
This is it. Do it or move on. So, all right. Thanks, Perez. Next one is from our guy, Nick Pertins, who is just hounding us in this fantasy baseball league. I don't know what he's doing. I think he's made trade proposals to everybody in the league, and he even admits it. So, Brandon Dan Orlando, why you no accept my trades? Had to give it to you. Anyway, DeMarco Murray gone. Who should we look to replace him? Preferably a mid-round pick. Any targets in mind? I would like D. Henry to team up with former Bama back Bo Scarborough. Thoughts on that? So real quick, Dan, I kind of like that. I kind of like the idea of the Debo show, the Bama Debo show, because I like Bo Scarborough. I don't know where exactly he falls in this draft, but we'll see. But I really like the idea of going after some of these veteran free agent guys. And this one just hit me over the last couple of days. D'Angelo Williams, bring him back to the Tennessee area. He set out all last year. He should be fairly healthy. Last time he played, I think he had a very good amount of success when Le'Veon Bell was suspended. Every time Le'Veon Bell was suspended, I think D'Angelo came in and filled in very well for him. No contact at all last year. If he still has an interest to play in the NFL, which I believe he does, go after him, Tennessee. I like him a lot. We talked about this before. Doug Martin, you don't think he has much value left, but as just a veteran backup and someone who possibly catch passes out of the backfield, the opposite of that big banger, which Henry is, someone like that. Rex Burkhead, he's looking for a job unless he signed today or in the last couple of days. I didn't see it, but guys like that, I like that a little bit more than targeting a third, fourth round pick. But if you are looking to draft a third, fifth round pick and looking for that type of back, then I hope they would do something, some sort of speedy back that can catch passes and open up the offense for a little bit for Mariota. Just several of the guys that I wrote down here. Naheem Hines, and a couple I know Dan will like, and he's been, I think, lobbying for Ito Smith, Southern Miss, and his boy from Colorado, Philip Lindsay. And I still like Cameron Petway, too. I like Cameron Petway, and he's slipping down draft boards, so I think he could be caught in the 4th or 5th round. So I like his pedigree, and I think he'll be available after round 3. So that's just some of the names. Veterans, D'Angelo Williams, Doug Martin, Rex Burkhead. If I had to draft, maybe Naheem Hines, Ito Smith, Philip Lindsay, maybe even Cameron Petway.
Yeah. I mean, that's an okay list. For free agents, I actually have different guys. I have Carlos Hyde down as a nice compliment.
I didn't think they'd be able to really pay the price tag that he may demand. I think Carlos Hyde.
He might, but I don't know if running backs are getting a whole lot on the free agent market.
Well, does that bring any kind of conflict between him and Derrick Henry? Because I think Carlos Hyde would maybe demand that starting role. Very close anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would definitely be a committee approach, but that keeps both guys fresh. So I think, I mean, any NFL offense can kind of do that unless you have like a Zeke or Le'Veon Bell. Another veteran that I actually have down here is more of the pass receiving back, Dion Lewis. And another guy that I'm familiar with is Alfred Morris. He's a free agent and might be able to get him on the cheap just as kind of more insurance, and you let D. Henry take the load. So I like those guys on the free agent market. Philip Lindsay, you stole my guy. I think he would be a perfect fit in Tennessee, and he's a fantastic locker room guy, work ethic, high motor, receiving ability, running. But I mean, he's an overall great guy. So I hope he goes. That would be a great fit there. Akram Wadley out of Iowa is another mid to late round pick. I think would be a nice fit, more of a receiving back. And then the guy that I'm high on that I think might fall a little bit is Rashad Penny out of San Diego State. He's more of a bruiser, but he also has some decent hands and agility in the open field. So I like Penny a lot as well. I think he would be more of a 3rd round pick than a mid to late round pick. But I do like Penny.
He was on my list too, but honestly, I didn't think, because I just kind of thought in my head, well, I don't really want to spend a 1st or a 2nd on this type of player, backup running back. So I'm thinking more along the lines of rounds 3 through 5, and I just didn't know that he would survive that long. I don't know.
He might not. I mean, he's my 3rd ranked running back, but I mean, I see him ranked, in the like 10 in some people's rankings, which is kind of shocking to me.
Yep. But I have faith. This is the part of the job that John Robinson does well, acquiring talent and getting them on the field. We'll see how the management side pans out next year. But thanks as always for the question, Nick. And I told you on the message board, I do not analyze or consider trades until after Grapefruit League play. Just that's my code. That's my code I live by. So I'm just gonna let you guys know that. So holler at me in a couple weeks. So here comes our man back. Another one of our guys, Gilly Stevens. Give me some Cinderellas. I like South Dakota State with the Dominator Mike Dom, plus the Buckeyes suck. So I don't know what his problem is with the Buckeyes. I don't know if he's such a great South Dakota State fan or just hates Ohio State for whatever reason. But yeah, I got them in there. Like Providence, I got them winning. Texas, I got them winning. But the lowest seed I have advancing, just like Dan, is the Loyola. I always struggle with that. Loyola. Loyola?
Loyola?
Loyola. That's like Lithuania. Of Chicago, but I got them surviving to the Sweet 16, just like Dan. So there's several teams that I took kind of a risk on, and took a shot to win a game. But by far the lowest seed surviving to the Sweet 16 would have been Loyola of Chicago going to the Sweet 16. Then I'm a lot of chalk from there. So I think you would pretty much have the same answer, Dan.
Well, I do have Montana in the Sweet 16. I'm with Gilly on South Dakota State, St. Bonaventure. I can see them advancing. UB pulling the shocker. Pennsylvania beating Kansas. Probably not, but Gilly, I mean, if it happens.
Now you're just naming stuff, though.
Do you understand? If Pennsylvania beats Kansas, my fantasy podcast should just become the #1 podcast in the nation, because no other podcast is predicting Penn over Kansas. Even Penn radio on the campus is not predicting them to beat Kansas. So
Well, we're not gonna have very many Kansas fans left on this podcast, so I hope there wasn't very many to begin with. And I really don't care after 2008, but so Azubuike, not sure if he's going to play. That's always up in the air about Kansas. So that kind of shying people off and their history of being upset anyway. So if they don't, if they survive Penn, which you're saying they may not, I'm saying they're not going to survive Seton Hall. So they got to go. They got to go. Jayhawks got to go.
Yeah,
that's all right with me. But anyway, Dan and I both agree about Loyola of Chicago. So, but that was a fairly popular one though. But we'll talk about it more next week when we know. Gilly. All right, next question comes from Fred Heyer. Missouri's chances with Michael Porter Jr. coming back. Not very good, Dan. Not very good to me. I had to go back and even look at who they were playing because I didn't think twice about it. When I selected Florida State, I didn't even think twice about it because I saw, like I said, what Michael Porter Jr. looked like against Georgia in the SEC tournament, and it wasn't good. 5 for 17 shooting is what he had. And like I said, Georgia was the third worst team in the SEC, and Missouri lost in their first game. So that 5 for 17, that's Trae Young shooting numbers. that's bad. That's like 30%. So I don't know. I don't know if he's fully healthy. I don't know if the stamina is going to be there, but I don't think he's going to be able to click it on just like that after a showing like that in the SEC tournament and start, like I said, putting the team on his back, pun intended, and guiding them through any kind of deep run. So I just don't see it. I like him, but I don't think he's quite healthy yet to really to ask this of him.
Yeah, Fred, I'll keep it simple. They have a chance to win one game, but that's it. I mean, I can see them beating Florida State, but it doesn't have to be on the back of Michael Porter Jr. They have some other talented guys, like his brother, like Cassius Robertson, like some other guys on there to win. So I don't think you're going to see any miracle type of performances by Michael Porter Jr. To try and get to the Sweet 16. I just don't see that happening.
All right. So next question, Dan. I didn't really see this. This is such old news to me. I'm done with all these documentaries and dramatizations of this story. I lived through my childhood. It's been revisited recently with the drama, which I forgot which network that was on, but anyway, it was like a year or two ago. But I'm kind of done with this. But anyway, this one comes from everyone who watched his confession last night. OJ did it. That's just a statement. OJ did it. So it was a big revelation here. OJ did it. And there was some kind of confession special or something like that the other night, which I heard that, and from what I read, didn't watch it, that OJ looks dumb. He just kind of looks dumb. He says some things sometimes that are just like, what you just said, just like, he strays from hypotheticals and talks a little bit more like, well, this is what I did. Oh, this is what he's, there's some kind of character in his head, Fred, Steve, whatever, would have done this. And so he just kind of strays from hypotheticals and really kind of implicates himself. But there's no, I've gone through this, I grew up, this is one of the biggest, murder mysteries. To me, it's right up there with like, close behind, I would say, like JFK, as far as murder mysteries, Tupac, wouldn't you like to have been there in person? Wouldn't you like to have the time machine and see what really, really happened? But I don't really think there's any question about this. I don't think there's any question that OJ didn't do this, but I didn't see it, Dan.
I did watch part of it. I didn't watch all of it, but yeah, he was definitely, it didn't look good for OJ. I mean, he started to go into hypotheticals, and then he was talking singular person. But yeah, he had a friend Charlie there.
Charlie,
yeah. It was it wasn't good for OJ. So I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, I mean, I was way too young. I remember I think I was in first grade art class when the verdict came down, and it's been used and abused a little bit too much lately. I think now they're just using OJ to make a buck on television, without him getting any of that. But I think we've been through it all before. All the facts or supposed facts are out there, and if you watch this supposed confession, I mean, it didn't look good for OJ. But I mean, there's nothing you can really do about it now. It's to 2018. It's been
Yeah.
30 years.
22 years. Yeah, 22 years. No, more than that. 24, 25 years.
So
Like 94,
I think it's okay. We can look past it.
Yeah, it's done. It's done. If not OJ, who? That's what I'd like someone to tell me, because he's still out there looking for the murderer, right? If not OJ, who? It doesn't make any sense. OJ did it. OJ did it. OJ did it. So I'm kind of done watching these specials about OJ Simpson. So sorry to disappoint, but I didn't see it. Okay, last one is from Thompson Graves. Did you guys take off like I do for all the tourney games? Snacks, food, drinks of choice during the Thursday, Friday games. I start light with a couple of wine spritzers and some chicken wings, then move on to beer and pizza, preferably some Blue Moon. Then I top it off at night with some sipping of some Scotch Gold Label and brownies. Then I pass out before the final games tip off. Thompson Graves. I like how we kind of mellowed out at nighttime with the brownies, man. What kind of brownies? And maybe you need some pick-me-up after drinking all day like that. Kind of brownies. Interesting. I'm with him all the way until the way he kind of ends his night. Got to have dessert, I guess.
Yeah. I actually, this question inspired me to give my fiance a grocery list as she went shopping. Actually, while we were doing this podcast. And what was on the grocery list? Fritos. I gotta have my corn chips during the Thursday, Friday action. So that's what I'm going to be getting. Chicken nuggets, just for a little lunch snack. And then whatever she wants to make me for dinner. No, I'm just kidding.
Brownie mix? Really have dinner plan. Brownie mix?
But definitely going to be munching on some Fritos and probably some Heinekens. Although I'm a little bit worried. I don't really start drinking for the 12 or 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock games Eastern time because I will pass out like Thompson does at night if I started to day drink that early. And I want to stay up for the UB game with Arizona at 9:40 p.m. Eastern time. So it's going to be a long day for me. So I'm going to have to hold off on the drinking until later on. But Fritos are going to be my snack of choice Thursday, Friday.
Well, I've got some advice for both you and Thompson, I guess. You gotta break it up into sessions, man. You gotta take a nap somewhere when those afternoon games trail off and you got a little bit of about an hour gap or so. You gotta take a nap. And then you regroup. Then you can start all over with your scotch and brownies. But I don't know this year. It's still up in the air whether or not I'm going to take off. It means so much less. Although I love this time of year. Love the tournament. My favorite sporting event of the year and my favorite sport, period. But when my team's not in it, it's not. I don't get riled up as much for it. It kind of hurts. It kind of hurts a little bit, and I just don't get as emotionally invested in it. So I'm not even really scheduled to be off at this particular point in time, although it may be some half days or something like that. But I like your menu. I'm just not going to do it all day like that. I'm not going to make an all day festivity out of it like that. Now, if my team was playing, then yes, I'd be off and I'd probably be with you all day long with a nap mixed in there as well. But it's Girl Scout cookie season. So I'd probably forfeit the brownies in favor of some Do-si-dos or whatever the flavor of the month is from the local Girl Scouts. So I got mine delivered yesterday. So there you go. That's a whole big podcast right there. Whole lot of college basketball, some NFL news, and some mailbag questions all wrapped up into about 2 hours for you. My fantasy podcast. What I can't wait to look forward to, Dan, is next week when we narrow all this down to 16 teams.
Montana.
Then we can start talking about who might win the championship.
Montana? Come on. Penn. St. Bonaventure. Right
Buffalo.
Yep. Yeah. They're going to shut down DeAndre Ayton. It's definitely possible. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. One more day of work for me, and then it's tournament Christmas time. So I can't wait.
There you go. And on the site right now, Dan, myfantasysportstalk.com.
Yeah.
Everything, literally everything.
NFL draft, basketball. If you want to win some money, look at my predictions. Entertainment section's doing pretty well. We got a lot of wrestling stuff up. The WWE Smack Talk guys do a good job. So, yeah, we got a whole bunch of stuff. Dylan Davis Torado with his Premier League And we got Memphis Tigers basketball covered. So when Penny is the man, we're gonna let you know about it.
We are. Tubby almost threw a wrinkle into that whole plan by almost getting a tournament bid. The city would have went nuts. But yeah, we got all that. Check out the site, dailymyfantasysportstalk.com. Dan has got previews of every single first round game with not only the lines, but his prediction and telling you everything you need to know about both of the teams, every single preview. And don't forget, NFL free agency really hitting ahead here. So we'll talk more about that next week, and check out the website for everything we can't cover on the podcast is going to be on the website, myfantasysportstalk.com. So until next week, we'll see you then for the Sweet 16 prediction show, folks. Thanks for stopping by. Later, podcast peeps. Peace.